My name is Ramona Chen. I'm 31 years old. And the morning my mother packed my entire life into garbage bags, I had just pulled a double shift stitching a lacerated mare back together in a barn with no heating. My hands still had iodine under the nails and hay dust in my hair when I turned onto our street and saw black hefty bags lined up along the curb like I was a tenant being evicted from my own childhood home. 6 bags. She had used the ones with the red drawstrings, the nice ones, the ones she only bought for yard cleanup day so the neighbors would think we were tidy people. My younger sister was sitting on the porch railing, filming on her phone, swinging her legs like it was a parade. My mother stood in the doorway with both hands on her hips and her reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, the posture she used when she wanted everyone on the block to know she was the reasonable one. "You're 31 years old, Ramona," she called out, loud enough for Mr. Hayward across the street to look up from his hedge trimmer. "I have carried you long enough." My sister tilted the camera toward my face and whispered something I couldn't hear, but I could see her smiling. The recycling truck was 2 houses away. The timing was so perfect, it almost felt staged, and honestly, knowing my mother, it might have been. She liked an audience. Always had. Have you ever stood in front of the people who raised you and realized, with absolute clarity, that they rehearsed this? That the garbage bags, the speech, the camera, the timing were all chosen so you would either collapse or explode, and either way, they'd have footage to prove you were the problem? I didn't collapse. I didn't explode. I walked to the curb, opened the first bag, and started sorting my things into the trunk of my car in complete silence. Scrubs, textbooks, winter jacket, the framed photo of my grandmother who died when I was 9. That one had a crack across the glass. I held it up so my sister's camera could see it clearly, then placed it gently on the passenger seat. My mother kept talking. She listed every bill, every inconvenience, every moment she had ever felt burdened by my existence. The grocery runs, the electricity, the hot water I apparently used too much of. She said I had been draining the household dry since I turned 18, which was interesting, because since I turned 18 I had been the one paying the internet, handling the yard service invoice, scheduling my sister's dentist appointments, managing the car insurance renewals, and picking up my mother's prescriptions from CVS every single Thursday. But I didn't say any of that. Not yet. When the trunk was full, I closed it, walked back to the remaining bags, loaded the back seat, and then stood in front of my mother one last time. She expected tears. I could see it. She had prepared a whole second speech for the tears. Instead, I looked at my sister's phone and said, very quietly, "Keep that video. You're going to need it later when you try to remember which one of us should be embarrassed." Then I got in my car and drove away. Before I tell you what happened in the next 12 days and what my phone looked like on night 11, tell me something. Where are you right now? And what time is it? Because I want to know how far a story like this can travel when somebody finally tells it out loud. I didn't go to a friend's place. I didn't pull into some parking lot to cry. I drove 14 miles east to a budget lodge off the interstate with a neon sign missing the E and asked for a weekly rate. The woman at the desk didn't blink. She had seen my kind before. 31, red-eyed, trunk full of garbage bags, paying with a debit card and praying it wouldn't decline. It didn't. I had $923 in checking. That was it. That was the entire net worth of a woman who had spent 13 years subsidizing a household that just threw her out with the yard waste. That first night, I lay on a mattress that smelled faintly like bleach and stared at the popcorn ceiling while my phone went off. 11 missed calls by midnight. Then the texts. My mother. "I hope you're happy. You just proved everything I've been saying about you." My sister. "Elmao, she actually left. Bet she comes back by Thursday." My mother again at 1:47 a.m. "If you're going to act like a stranger, don't expect me to chase you." I didn't reply. I screenshotted every single message, created a folder on my phone, and named it The Record. Not because I was planning revenge. Because I had grown up in a house where reality got rewritten every 72 hours, and I refused to let them do that to this moment. The next morning, I called the one person I trusted to be honest, even when honesty was inconvenient. Adrian Wallace, a large animal vet I'd assisted during a brutal foaling season 2 years earlier. We had bonded over 16-hour nights, bad vending machine coffee, and a shared belief that people who are good in emergencies are usually running from something at home. I told her everything. She didn't say "I'm so sorry." She said, "Tell me what you need to not go back." That question hit different because it assumed the right answer. Not whether I would go back, but what it would take to make sure I didn't. I said I need a plan. Then, "Stop talking about them and start talking about you," she said. "What do you want that they made you feel stupid for wanting?" I told her about the veterinary surgical certification I'd been putting off for 4 years. My mother called it a fantasy. My sister called it a waste. What they meant was that, if I got certified, I'd work longer hours, earn more money, build a life they couldn't control, and eventually stop being available to manage theirs. Adrian said, "Apply today." Not tomorrow. Today. So I did. Sitting on the edge of that motel bed with coffee from a gas station, I filled out the application for the advanced surgical technician track at the rural veterinary hospital where I'd been working overnights. Then I started looking for rooms to rent. Then I took a shower, got dressed, drove to work, and assisted on a colic surgery for 6 straight hours without thinking about my mother once. That part felt like the beginning of something. By day 3, the messages from home had shifted. Not softer, just different. My mother texted, "Did you take the folder with the insurance documents?" Not "Are you okay?" Not "I went too far." "Did you take the folder?" My sister sent, "Mom is freaking out because the Xfinity bill autopay was linked to your card and it got declined. How do I fix it?" Then my mother again. "The yard service sent an invoice, and I don't know the login. Did you set this up? Where is the password?" I stared at that last one for a long time. Because right there, in 3 days of silence, the entire myth of my family collapsed into a pile of unanswered admin questions. They hadn't lost a daughter. They had lost their operating system. I was the one who scheduled the pest control. I was the one who called the plumber when the kitchen faucet leaked for the 3rd time. I was the one who drove 40 minutes to pick up my mother's heart medication because she said the pharmacy near us was rude to her once in 2019. I was the one who filed my sister's FAFSA because she couldn't be bothered to Google how. I handled the trash day rotation, the air filter replacements, the annual chimney inspection, the vet appointments for their dog, a beagle named Clover who I loved more than anyone in that house loved me. I wasn't a burden. I was the invisible scaffolding holding the entire building together. And they had just ripped me out and expected the walls to stay up. Have you ever realized that the people calling you a parasite were actually the ones feeding off you the whole time? Because that moment, reading those texts, was when I understood the con, and I couldn't unsee it. On day 4, I found a room. A detached studio behind the house of an older widower named Carl Munoz, a retired electrician who asked me 3 questions. Do you smoke? Do you party on weeknights? And can you keep an eye on my cat Biscuit when I visit my daughter in Tucson? I said no, and absolutely. He charged me fair rent, showed me where the breaker box was, and said if anything breaks, tell me and I'll fix it, because that's what decent people do. I almost cried at that. Not because it was extraordinary, because it was so ordinary, and I had never had it. I moved in that evening with my garbage bags and a folding cot I bought off Facebook Marketplace for $30. The studio smelled like sawdust and old books. It had one window that faced a lemon tree. I sat on the cot eating a bowl of instant pho with a plastic fork, listening to absolutely nothing. No cabinet slamming. No passive-aggressive sighing from the hallway. No my mother standing in my doorway at 11 p.m., saying, "Must be nice to just relax while the rest of us keep this house running." Just silence, real silence, the kind that doesn't come before a fight, the kind that comes after you've finally stopped living in one. My phone buzzed. My sister. "Okay, this is actually ridiculous. Mom said you haven't answered in 4 days. Are you trying to prove a point?" I typed back one word. "No." Then I deleted it unsent. She didn't deserve even that. Days 5 through 7 is when things got interesting, because that is when the house started breaking down in ways they couldn't Google their way out of. Day 5, my mother's car insurance lapsed. She had been driving without coverage for 2 days before she even noticed, because I was the one who tracked the renewal dates and called the agent when the autopay failed. She found out when she got pulled over for a broken taillight, and the officer asked for her insurance. Day 6. The hot water heater made a sound she described in a voicemail as a loud knocking like someone is trapped inside the wall. She wanted me to come look at it, not call a plumber. Come look at it. Because in her mind, the solution to every household crisis was still me. Day 7. My sister's phone got shut off because the family plan payment had bounced. Turns out I had been the one who kept that account current for the last 2 years, by transferring money into my mother's checking account on the 5th of every month, so the auto draft wouldn't fail. Nobody told me to do this. I just did it because I was trained to keep things running, and they were trained to let me. And now, without the woman they called a drain on resources, the resources were draining faster than they could comprehend. That same week, I got a call from Dr. Lena Okafor, the surgical director at the hospital. My application for the certification track had been reviewed. Not only was I accepted, but the hospital was offering a partial sponsorship based on my performance record over the last 3 years. She said something I will carry for the rest of my life. Ramona, the people who work with you trust you in a room with a dying animal at 3 a.m. That tells me more than any transcript ever could. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and pressed my forehead to the steering wheel, not crying, breathing. Because the same week my mother was discovering she didn't know her own Wi-Fi password, I was being told I was trusted with lives. Around that time, Adrian met me for tacos at a truck stop off Route 9. She pushed a napkin across the table with 3 words written on it. Housing, career, boundaries. She said, "These are your 3 priorities. Not explaining yourself to people who never listened. Not defending yourself to people who already decided. Not going back to manage a house that never managed to respect you." She asked me a hard question. What if your mother shows up at your door crying? I looked at my taco and said, then she shows up at my door crying. Adrian nodded. What if your sister calls saying everything is falling apart? Then it falls apart, I said. It was already falling apart. I was just the tape holding it together. On day 8, Carl knocked on my studio door with a plate of cookies his daughter had sent from Tucson and said, "Some woman came by asking if I was renting to a young lady matching your description." I told her I don't discuss my tenants with strangers. Then he paused. "She looked like you, though." Same chin. My mother had found me. I don't know how. Maybe she drove around. Maybe she called people. But she found my street, and Carl sent her away. That night, the voicemail arrived. Not angry this time. My mother's voice was thin, tired, stretched like she had been rehearsing calm and couldn't quite hold it. She said, "I'm not going to apologize for expecting you to grow up, Ramona. But this silent treatment is cruel. Your sister is struggling. The house is a mess. The dog hasn't been to the vet in weeks. You are punishing this family for one bad morning." One bad morning. She called it one bad morning. 6 garbage bags on the curb, a camera in my face, and a public speech about how I was a parasite. One bad morning. I saved the voicemail, added it to the folder, and didn't respond. Day 9 came the message that changed everything, and it wasn't from my family. It was from a girl I went to high school with whose mom still lived 3 houses down from mine. She texted me out of the blue. "Hey, not sure if this is my place, but my mom said your mother has been telling people on the street that you had a breakdown and moved out in the middle of the night. She's saying she begged you to stay, and you refused to get help. Just thought you should know." I read that twice. Then I laughed. Actually laughed, alone in my little studio with the lemon tree outside my window, because of course she was rewriting it. That's what my family does. They throw you out with the trash on Tuesday, and by Saturday they're telling everyone they tried to save you. I pulled up the video my sister had recorded on the lawn that morning. I had screenshotted a still frame from it. Me loading bags into my trunk while my mother shouted from the porch. Clearly visible, clearly aggressive, clearly not begging anyone to stay. I didn't post it anywhere. I didn't send it to anyone. I just looked at it and whispered, "Try again, Mom." And then night 11 hit. I was lying on my cot at 1 a.m. After a 12-hour shift, half asleep with Biscuit the cat curled against my knee, when my phone started lighting up like a switchboard. It didn't stop for 2 hours. By 3 a.m., I had 67 messages. My mother, where are you? Answer me. This is not a game. Call me right now. My sister at 11:48 p.m. Okay, so Dad's insurance adjuster called, and apparently some claim from the car thing needs your signature because you were listed on the policy. Mom is losing her mind. My mother at 12:15 a.m. I'm serious, Ramona. The water heater broke. There is water in the hallway, and I don't know how to shut it off. My sister at 12:30 a.m. She's crying. Like actually crying. Can you at least tell me where the shutoff valve is? My mother at 1:02 a.m. Fine, don't answer. But when this house floods, that's on you. My sister at 1:20 a.m. I don't understand why you're doing this. My mother at 2:14 a.m. This needs to stop. Call me back immediately. And then, around 2:30, one more from my sister that was different from the rest. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't blame me. She just wrote 4 words. She can't stop crying. I sat up in the dark and stared at that message for a long time. Not because I felt guilty, because I remembered the morning on the curb. How calm my mother looked when she watched me load those bags. How steady, how rehearsed. Women like her always think consequences are for other people. They think Tuesday's cruelty disappears by Saturday, and the person they hurt is supposed to reset, come back, fix the plumbing, and pretend it never happened. But shame is a slow tide, and when it finally reaches the front door, it doesn't knock. It floods. The next morning, Dr. Okafor pulled me aside at the hospital. She had finalized the paperwork. My certification track was starting in 2 weeks, fully sponsored, with a stipend increase and a surgical mentorship under the hospital's senior orthopedic vet. She shook my hand and said, "You've earned this, Ramona. Every bit of it." I carried that sentence around like a warm stone in my chest. Because at home, earning things didn't matter. Only obedience did. At work, it was the opposite. Skill counted. Steadiness counted. Being the person they called at 2 a.m. for a hemorrhaging foal counted. My family never saw that version of me, or maybe they saw it and resented it, because competence in the wrong direction was just disobedience in a lab coat. That weekend, something happened that I didn't plan but wouldn't trade. The county fairgrounds hosted a free pet vaccination clinic every spring, and our hospital ran the large animal tent. Dr. Okafor asked me to lead the intake station. I almost declined when I realized the fairgrounds were 6 minutes from my mother's house, but then I thought, no, I'm done rearranging my geography to accommodate people who wouldn't rearrange a single sentence to keep me. I showed up at 7 a.m., in clean scrubs with the hospital logo, my new badge clipped to my collar, hair tied back, clipboard in hand. For 3 hours I processed animals, answered questions, calmed nervous pet owners, and helped a little girl in rain boots hold still long enough for us to vaccinate her 3-legged rescue cat she had named Pirate. Around noon, I looked up, and there they were, across the fairgrounds. My mother at a craft booth, my sister holding a lemonade, both of them doing the thing my family did best, performing normal for the neighbors, smiling hard, standing close, pretending the house behind them wasn't crumbling. Then one of the volunteers near the entrance said, loud enough to carry, "Ramona, the folks from the Rotary Club want to take a photo of the vet team. You're in it, right?" My mother's head turned. My sister stopped mid-sip. They saw the scrubs, the badge, the clipboard, the team standing behind me, and I watched my mother's face do something it had never done before. It went blank. Not angry, not proud, not jealous, just empty. Like a woman staring at a version of her daughter she had no script for. My sister came over first. She looked tired. Not hungover tired. Tired like someone who had been holding up a house that wouldn't stop leaking. She said, "Can we talk?" I said, "You can talk." She glanced back at our mother and lowered her voice. "Everything is insane. The house is falling apart. Mom doesn't sleep. She keeps saying you ruined the family. And the neighbors, they've been weird." Someone told her they saw the video I took that morning, and she lost it. I let the silence sit for a second, then I said, You filmed me being thrown out and posted it where your friends could see it. She swallowed. I didn't post it. Someone screenshotted it from my story before I deleted it. Before you deleted it, I repeated. So you did post it. Her eyes filled. I didn't think it would go this far. I know, I said. That's the problem. My mother came next. She walked over with that tight posture she uses when she knows people are watching, but pretends she doesn't care. She looked at my badge. At Dr. Okafor standing behind me. At the families thanking me by name. She said, almost in a whisper. Not here, Ramona. I nearly laughed. Not here. As if she hadn't made it here when she lined my garbage bags along the curb for the whole street to see. As if the location only mattered when the humiliation was hers. You made it here, I said. All of it. Her chin trembled. Then she tried the move she had used on me my entire life, the guilt pivot. She leaned in and said, your grandmother would be devastated to see you treating your family like this. I looked her dead in the eye and said, my grandmother would be devastated to see you putting your daughter's belongings in trash bags. Don't use her. She stepped back like I had slapped her. And in that moment, standing in the sun with a team behind me, and a badge on my chest, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt like a person, not a utility, not a punching bag. Not the daughter who keeps the Wi-Fi on and the fridge stocked, and the dog medicated and the insurance current while being told she's the reason everything is hard. À personne. Dr. Okafor called my name. I turned, smiled at my team, and went back to work. I didn't look at my mother again. I didn't need to. That was the ending they deserved. Not me running into their arms. Not a screaming confrontation. Not some dramatic monologue about how they failed me. Just me, doing my job, surrounded by people who respected me, while they stood 20 yards away, understanding for the first time that they were no longer the center of my story. Later, when the event ended, and the fairgrounds emptied, I sat alone in my car, and opened the folder on my phone. Every screenshot, every voicemail, every message. I scrolled through all of it one last time. Then I deleted the folder. Not because they deserved forgiveness. Because I didn't need the evidence anymore. The consequences had already arrived on their own. My mother was the woman the street whispered about now. My sister was the girl who filmed her own sister's humiliation and lost control of the footage. And their house, the house they said I was draining, was falling apart without me in it. Sometimes, the loudest revenge is just the sound of your absence echoing through a home that mistook you for furniture. I used to believe family was permanent no matter what. That you owed them patience, labor, silence, loyalty, even when they offered you nothing in return. I don't believe that anymore. Now I believe this. If the only version of you they value is the one that serves them quietly, then walking away isn't betrayal. It's the first honest thing you've ever done. And here's the question I want to leave you with tonight. If the people who are supposed to love you only notice your worth after you stop carrying them, were they ever really loving you? Or were they just renting your loyalty and calling it family? And one more thing. If you've been the Ramona in your family, the one who holds everything together while being told you're the one tearing it apart, I need you to hear this. You are not the problem. You never were. And the moment you stop believing their version of you is the moment your life actually begins.